Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Aparna, working as scientist in MFPI Food Quality Control Laboratory, Professor Jaishankar, Telangana State Agricultural University, Hyderabad. Today, we will learn about food deterioration. Food is considered spoiled when an undesirable change in color, flavor, odor, or texture has occurred. The onset of food spoilage is rather indefinite. We never know when it will start and how it will start. It is a gradual process which occurs because of either poor sanitation, enzymatic reactions or chemical reactions, or because of improper temperature controls, storage, or because of any microbial growth or any kind of physical abuse. Foods are described as spoiled if any changes, especially organoleptic changes, make them unacceptable to the customer. These organoleptic characteristics may include the changes which happen in appearance, that is the discoloration, the development of any kind of off odors, any slime formation on the food surface, changes in the taste, or any other kinds of characteristic changes which make the food undesirable. Any kind of endogenous activity within the muscle tissue, especially in the animals, post-mortem changes can contribute to changes during the storage. And it is generally accepted that detectable organoleptic spoilage is a result of decomposition and the formation of metabolites caused by the growth of microorganisms. Coming to the changes that happened during the food deterioration or spoilage, we will learn about the different kinds of changes which will occur in the foods. The first one is odor. Odor is nothing but any kind of off odor or undesirable smell like rotten egg, etc. are produced when the bacteria breaks down the protein in the food, usually any kind of fatty foods. And this process is called putrefaction. And you will see that there will be changes in the flavor, aroma also and in the food and will render the food undesirable. The second change is development of sliminess. The food becomes slimy as the bacterial population grows on the surface of the food matrix. Sometimes the molds also form slimy whiskers on the food matrices. Then the next change is discoloration. We see that the food becomes discolored due to microbial growth. Some molds have colored spores that give the food a distinctive color, for example, pink mold on the bread or blue and green mold on the citrus fruit and cheese, etc. Then coming to the other changes, we can see that the foods sometimes become sour. Souring is another kind of spoilage. Foods go sour when certain bacteria produces acids. A common example for souring is the milk becomes sour due to production of lactic acid. Then the last change which we can see when the food deteriorates is production of gas. Bacteria and yeast often produce gaseous byproducts which will affect the quality of the food. It may be noticed that the meat becomes spongy and packages and cans can swell or have a popping appearance or fizzing appearance on opening the packaging material. So these are the different changes which we observe when a food deteriorates. According to the cause of the spoilage, types of food spoilage falls into two major categories. Microbial spoilage, which is caused by microorganisms and their products. Then we have the second category, that is non-microbial spoilage, which is caused by foreign material in the foodstuffs or by enzymes which will occur naturally in the foodstuffs. An understanding of various factors that cause the food to deteriorate is helpful to ensure that correct processing, preservation and packaging technique is selected to ensure that the food doesn't deteriorate. The main causes of deterioration in food are: one is because of microorganisms, second is because of enzymatic changes, third because of some chemical changes, for example, changes in water content, heat, metals, air or light, or contamination by soils, stones, insects, etc. Then we have the next type of deterioration, that is the physical deterioration, where you will see a mechanical or some physical kind of damage which occurs to the food matrix. Now let us try to understand each type of spoilage. First one is spoilage by microorganisms. All fresh foods have microorganisms on their surfaces, often in a large number, and they can grow rapidly in the food matrices, which will lead to deterioration or spoilage in the food. A main purpose of processing the food is to destroy all the unwanted microorganisms which can be potentially harmful. Packaging prevents recontamination, and together processing and packaging can prevent onset of microorganisms from spoiling the food product during distribution as well as storage, so that we can enhance the shelf life of the food matrix. Microorganisms can be divided into general categories like bacteria, yeast or molds, each of which may be further divided into subgroups. Of the many microorganisms, the main types of interest are those that cause food spoilage and those that can lead to food poisoning. When food is processed correctly, the number of spoilage microorganisms and their activity is reduced and controlled at known levels. It is when there is a failure in processing conditions or problem in the packaging material, we can see that the spoilage microorganisms render their effect on the food. They can result in the food growing moldy, developing an off odor, off smell, or fermenting. The different types of spoilage to a large extent depend on the nature of the food and in particular the acidity content of the food and the moisture content of the food. Then we have the second type of spoilage, that is enzymatic spoilage. Enzymes are naturally occurring proteins that act on the food which causes change in the flavor, color or texture. There are hundreds of different enzymes. Some of them are good, but some of them importantly cause spoilage in the food, including softening of fruits and vegetables, rancidity in the oils, browning in the cut fruit or vegetables and in the root crops, and also loss of green color in vegetables. In general, enzymes are either destroyed by heating or prevented from acting by changing the acidity or water content of the food. Then the next type of spoilage is spoilage due to presence of water. Enzymes and microorganisms can spoil the foods only in presence of water. If water is removed, then you can make sure that enzymes and microorganisms do not affect and act on the food and render the food to be spoiled. Different foods have different percentages of water. For example, grains are relatively safe and they are dry when harvested, and these can be easily preserved for a long period of time by removing the small amount of water by subjecting the grains to drying. Other foods like fruits, vegetables, meat, etc. have a very high content of moisture or water, and if we want to preserve the fruits, vegetables or meat, we have to ensure that the water content is reduced or the water is made unavailable to the enzymes as well as microorganisms by subjecting the food to either drying or dehydration or concentration or freezing. However, removing the water only prevents the action of enzymes as well as microorganisms. It does not destroy them. They can act again when the water returns into the food matrix. For example, when we rehydrate the dehydrated foods, then thawing of the frozen foods, etc., we can see that the enzymatic activity and microbial activity also increases after thawing or rehydrating the food. And therefore, foods have to be heated to destroy the enzymes and microorganisms before drying and freezing to inactivate the enzymatic activity. If we look at the normal moisture content of processed food, it should be maintained during the storage. This is a main function of packaging for almost all the foods. If the moisture content falls below an acceptable level in the moist foods, the food dries out, shrivels, and is seen as spoiled by the consumers. Similarly, if the moisture content of a dry food is allowed to rise above an acceptable level, it will first lose its crispiness and become unacceptable to the consumer, but it may also gain sufficient moisture to allow the microorganisms to grow and cause further spoilage and deterioration in the food. The acceptable range of moisture content is different for each processed food, and it is a very critical factor to be taken into account. Higher temperature always increases the rate of spoilage by microorganisms and enzymes up to a maximum above which they are destroyed. Hence, the food when subjected to high temperatures, then we can ensure that the food is enzymatically and microbially safe. Let us now understand the effect of heat. When foods are heated to more than 60 degrees centigrade, most of the enzymes and microorganisms are destroyed or deactivated. The higher the temperature, the faster they are destroyed. This is one of the easiest method of preservation, that is, heat preservation is one of the most easiest preservation, which includes boiling, frying, baking, pasteurization, sterilization, etc. However, cooked food can be easily recontaminated if it is not packaged properly. Heat can also spoil the packaged food. It can melt fats, it can cause loss in the texture, flavor, aroma of the food, and can cause rapid changes such as development of rancidity in the oils and movement of moisture within a food, which in turn can lead to spoilage. Let us now see the effect of light. Sunlight which contains ultraviolet rays can lead to rapid deterioration of some foods, especially oils, fatty foods, etc., or sometimes some specific components of the food such as vitamins, minerals, etc. Ultraviolet rays can also cause packaging materials to fade or become brittle and lose their properties. In general, all the food should be stored in shade away from the direct sunlight. Electric lights do not have the same effects on the foods because they do not contain any ultraviolet rays. Then let us see the effect of air. Some foods, especially those that have high fat content or those which have got very delicate flavors and aromas, are susceptible to oxidation. Oxidation is nothing but attack by air which can lead to off flavors, off odors which will develop, which is also known as rancidity. Foods like biscuits, cookies, oils, dried fish and other fatty foods are liable to spoilage by rancidity. These foods should therefore be protected from the contact with air by storing the foods in airtight containers, keeping the food away from air or oxygen. Let us now see what is contamination. Foods are often contaminated when harvested or slaughtered, and most processing involves a cleaning stage to remove these contaminants. However, foods may also be contaminated after the processing also, and this is more serious because the contamination cannot be removed because the food is already processed and the customer will buy the processed food. There are different types of post-harvest contamination which are possible from various sources. Let us now see what are the various sources of contamination. We have contaminants from hair, which could be coming from the operators who are handling the food or from the animals if they are moving around the food during the processing. The second type of contaminant is dust, soil and stones. These can come in the workplace either from the equipment or due to improper transportation and handling of the food matrices. Then we have the third category of contaminants, that is bacteria and molds. The source of bacteria and molds could be from air, it could be from the operators or the food handlers, it could be from animals, insects which are thriving around the processing area, it could also be from birds, rodents, dust which is there around the processing area. Then we have another source of contaminant which is excreta, and this could be because of excreta coming from animals, insects, birds if there is very unhygienic condition maintained in the processing area as well as in the storage area. Then the next type of contamination or contaminant is oil and grease. The possible source of oil and grease could be from the equipment and during the transportation and handling of the food materials. We have other source of contaminants, that is the wood, glass, paper, cloth, etc., which will be coming from the workplace either during handling or transportation of the food matrices. We have other kinds of contaminants like metal. Different kinds of metals also could be there in the food as a contaminant, and these metals enter into the food through the equipment from the workplace during transportation and handling of the food material. Then lastly, we have contaminants which are nothing but insects, and these insects could come into the workplace through the air, through transportation, or if unhygienic conditions are maintained in the food processing area as well as in the storage area like the godowns, etc. Now that you have learnt about various sources of contaminants and the sources which come from the different contamination sources, it is very important and crucial to understand that the contamination can be stopped or prevented to a larger extent. And as we already know that we have two types of contamination. One is deliberate contamination, which is called as adulteration, and then accidental contamination. And we definitely have to stop the accidental contamination. For stopping the accidental contamination, we have different methods which can be adapted in the food industry. For example, the food industry can adapt HACCP technology, that is hazard analysis critical control point techniques, to ensure that any source of contaminants, whether it is human source or animal source, dust, handling, processing sources which can lead to contamination, can be curbed to a larger extent. And apart from that, by maintaining proper hygiene and by educating the food handlers to ensure that hygiene is very important for the quality outcome in the food products, we can make sure that the contamination in the foods can be reduced to a larger extent. When we reduce the contamination by application of HACCP techniques, by educating the food handlers on sources of contamination, ways and means to prevent contamination, we can make sure that deterioration or spoilage in the food through contamination can be brought down to a larger extent. One of the main functions of packaging is to protect the foods against any kinds of contaminants which we have discussed now. From the time it has been processed until it is consumed, there should be very good packaging to the food so that any kind of contamination can be avoided. It should be noted that the contamination described just now can be accidental contamination, if not intentional contamination. Contamination that is done deliberately to increase the profitability from malice is called as adulteration, and it is not termed as contamination. Let us now try to understand the other kinds of deterioration, the first one being mechanical damage. Foods are frequently fragile and they can be easily crushed, scratched, split or otherwise damaged during storage, harvesting, distribution, etc. Now this kind of mechanical damage can be caused in 4 different ways. The first one is by pressure, which can be caused by stacking or piling of the foods for a very too high. The mechanical damage can be done in different ways. Especially there are 4 different ways where the mechanical damage can be done. One is if we stack the foods or pile the foods too high, we can see that the pressure build up on the food can lead to some kind of mechanical damage. The other one is by impact from hitting or dropping the food. Then one is by vibration during the transportation and handling the food mattresses. The 4th mechanical damage to the foods can be done because of rubbing against each other or against the container sides. Another main function of packaging is to minimize these types of physical or mechanical damages which can happen to the food by taking care of the above mentioned types of mechanical damages. Then we have the physical spoilage, and the physical spoilage or physical damage to the protective outer layer of the food during harvesting, processing, handling, distribution can increase the chance of chemical or microbial spoilage. Examples of physical spoilage can be staling of the bakery products and the bakery components, moisture migration between various kinds of foods and different kinds of components with varied levels of moisture, physical separation of the components or ingredients, and by moisture loss or gain during the handling and distribution of the food materials. Then we have the third category, that is the chemical spoilage. When animal or vegetable material is removed from its natural source of energy and nutrient supply, chemical changes begin to occur which lead to deterioration in its structure. The two major chemical changes which occur during the processing and storage of foods and lead to a deterioration in sensory quality are the lipid oxidation and enzymatic browning reactions. The chemical reactions are also responsible for changes in the color and flavor of the foods during the processing as well as during the storage. So we have understood the mechanical damage, physical damage and chemical damage. A knowledge of deterioration factors and the way they act includes the rates of deterioration to a specific category of foods means that it is possible to list the ways of lowering or reducing or stopping the action and obtaining the preservation and processed food materials to be safe, in order to maintain their nutritional value and organoleptic properties. And because of technical economical considerations, not all the identified means against deterioration actually have practical applications for food preservation. Now, let us understand the technical methods to control the food deterioration. We have different categories or methods to control the food deterioration. The first one is physical methods, in which we have heating, cooling, lowering of water content by drying or dehydration or concentration, then sterilizing, filtration, irradiation, and other physical means like high pressure processing, vacuum processing, inert gas processing, etc. can be used as methods to control the food deterioration. Then after the physical methods, we have the chemical methods. Under the chemical methods, we can take help of some kinds of chemical salts, etc. to control the deterioration. So the chemicals which can be used for controlling the deterioration are by salting, smoking, sugar addition, artificial acidification, ethyl alcohol addition, application of some antiseptic or antibiotic substances can lead to deterioration of the food through chemical methods. So after physical methods and chemical methods, we also have some biochemical methods which can reduce deterioration in the food. The biochemical methods are lactic acid fermentation, which is a kind of natural acidification, and alcoholic fermentation also can reduce the deterioration in the food. After understanding the technical methods for stopping the deterioration in the food, we have to know that each method cannot work in isolation. Especially if we talk about just heating, it cannot be possible to stop the deterioration completely. Therefore, we might have to go for a combination of methods like physical method plus chemical method combination or chemical method plus biochemical method combination. For example, if we want to develop intermediate moisture foods, we will have to dehydrate the food matrix to a moisture content of less than 50%, and we can go for gamma radiation or irradiation as a combination method to make sure that the food will be remaining safe and sterile for a longer period of time. Similarly, if we want to go for freezing of the food material or preparation of any freeze-dried powder, we again have to go for a combination of methods. First is we will have to go for concentration of the entire food matrix to remove or reduce the moisture content, and then go for freeze-drying. By using a combination of methods, we can also ensure that the spoilage and deterioration can be curbed to a larger extent. For example, simple dehydration technique also requires a combination of methods. For example, we will have to take the fruits and vegetables, then subject it to blanching. When we go for blanching, we will make sure that the food enzymes which are present in the fruits and vegetables like polyphenol oxidase, etc. will be reduced. So by reducing the enzymatic activity through blanching, we have already reduced the enzymatic contamination. Later on, the blanched food will be put on tray dryers or can be subjected to any kind of dehydration or drying technique. So by a combination of pre-treatment, that is blanching, and dehydrating the food material, we are controlling the enzymes which can lead to spoilage in the food material, and we are also reducing the moisture through dehydration, where we can ensure that the enzymatic activity and microbial growth also can be cut down to a larger extent. Therefore, one single method, either physical method or chemical method or biochemical method, cannot be used in isolation. Even if we use them in isolation, we probably might not be able to control the food deterioration, and which is the reason why a combination of methods can be used. It can be two methods or more than two methods which can reduce the food deterioration or food spoilage, and we can ensure that the food will be more safe and the quality parameters of the food also can be in a much better way. So there are many methods and ways to prevent food deterioration and spoilage. One is by use of physical, chemical and biochemical methods, but not the least, packaging also does play a very important role. So after ensuring the treatment which has been given to the food, proper packaging also plays a very pivotal role in controlling the deterioration. And nowadays, we also have very good packaging material with very good barrier properties, that is reduced OTR and WVTR values, so that we can ensure that the film which is used for packaging also plays a major role to stop food deterioration and food spoilage in the foods. This classification of methods into physical methods, chemical methods and biochemical methods for reducing the deterioration presents some difficulties because their preservation effects are physical, physicochemical, chemical and biochemical complex phenomena which rarely act in isolation. Therefore, we can use a combination which is also called as hurdle preservation. So in today's session, we have learnt about food deterioration. And in this food deterioration, we have tried to understand what food deterioration means, what are the types of food deterioration, what kinds of changes happen in the food matrix due to deterioration, and we have also tried to see how to control the food deterioration by physical methods, chemical methods and biochemical methods. For further reference, you can refer to any food technology textbook for basic information and advanced food technology textbooks for further information. Thank you.